A lot of the subject areas that are within the acronym aren't typically known for being creation-based places. Like you mentioned contextualizing mathematics. I wish I had you as my math teacher, because all my math teachers, it was decontextualized, and I would just constantly be like, what's the point of this? I'm not actually making anything. I'm just solving different equations or problems. But I'm wondering, how do you challenge educators to think of STEM as a creative field and include other disciplines that are typically more creative, like the arts, humanities, etc.?
Honestly, it happens when you demonstrate it yourself. I mean, I guess that's maybe the simplest thing. And I can't maybe convince every teacher to be a different type of teacher, a better type of teacher. But like you said, when I share something on my social media, so like, let's say I post a picture on my Twitter and a few teachers look at it and they say, oh, that's a great idea. I never would have thought of cutting parallelograms out of old magazines and pasting them together on a piece of paper. And it gives that illusion, because when you put three parallelograms together, it looks like a three-dimensional cube. And so you create this artistic picture that's very cool. Any kid can take home and hang it up on their wall in their room and be like, that's some cool art that I made. It's also math. You can bring up all those aspects of, well, it worked because of the angles of the sides of that polygon, of that shape. And there's reasons that different types of polygons do that and other types of polygons that don't. Then the kids start noticing, they're like, hey, Mr. Woods, I saw this picture, or I saw this graphic in my game, or I saw this background on a folder. And so I bought this one because it reminded me of what we talked about in our class. And that's the best part, when the kids start to realize that STEM that you've been talking about and contextualizing it, as you said, Jared, when they start to see it in their world and bring it back to you and show you how they're starting to notice it.
So what kind of spaces do you think afford this kind of approach to connecting all these different disciplinary boundaries?
We're always, I think, until education radically changes, and we see education right now already changing with distance learning and those types of things. So change is possible in education. We've just proved it, in 2020. But at some point, education, I think, will change to have less of those walls, those rigid lines between subject areas. In fact, I would love nothing more than there to never be a STEM teacher, because the moment that we just have, STEM class, we walk down the hallway, we go to STEM class, then we walk back to our classroom, and then we do something else. I mean, it's great. I love that kids get to do that and experience that, especially because maybe that's the best way to share those resources and the expert maybe in your building. But that's not the focus of being a STEM school or having STEM materials and learning for your kids. We want that STEM to be part of every classroom. We want it to be part of every aspect. And again, same thing with literacy. One thing that I make each week for educators is like a weekly newspaper of just some STEM stories from news articles and a puzzle and a challenge and different things like that. Because I want kids to not just think that STEM is something that we do, it's also something that you read about. It has a literacy aspect to it as well. And I think the more that we can combine all these subjects, I'd love nothing more than in the future there to be a school, to be education that doesn't have so many boundaries in it.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 59, which is titled Daily STEM with Chris Woods. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.